Water is essential for all organisms to survive, both plants and animals, land species, and aquatic species. Hey there. Today we're going to talk about water, an abiotic factor affecting ecosystems. So, an ecosystem is an area of land or water that includes all of the organisms in the area. Plus, the ecosystem includes all of the abiotic or non living factors that affect all those organisms. So, water supply, temperature, and soil nutrients. The word eco is going to refer to the environment, and the word system describes a situation where there's an exchange of matter or energy with a surrounding. So, things work together. In an open system, there's both the exchange of energy and matter with the surrounding. So, like your body, we take energy in the form of food, we expel waste, and matter we exchange in the form of, again, food and waste, oxygen, carbon dioxide with our surroundings. A closed system is one where energy is exchanged but not matter. And this is going to be similar to a sealed plastic container. So matter can't get in and out, but energy can get in. And again, the Earth, if we looked at, is similar to a closed system where energy goes linearly through the system, but matter is cycled. Now, ecosystems are considered to be open systems because both matter and energy can enter and leave. So we want to identify three different types of matter that are exchanged with the surroundings. So we can have water that comes in through the fall of rain. We can have wood that's brought in by a beaver. We can have fish that leave because of the hawk, and three types of energy that are exchanged. So we have, again, the herbivores consuming the plants, the sun's energy being absorbed by the plants, and the heron eating the fish. So, three different types of energy that are exchanged would be more of a food chain component, where matter that's exchanged as items, biotic or abiotic, moving in and out of that ecosystem. So, biotic factors are organisms that live and grow, they're living. Abiotic factors are physical, non living parts of the ecosystem. So, for example, the water supply, light, soil quality, the climate, and the temperature, as well as the soil pH. So, we can group this into the atmosphere, the water, and the soil, and they affect all the different biotic factors in the ecosystem. So, whether it's windy or not windy, whether we have direct light or indirect light, whether the precipitation is high or low. With pH, in the water, also dissolved nutrients, oxygen, and carbon dioxide. And then the soil, again, the available nutrients, pH, and the temperature of the soil all affect the abiotic components of the ecosystem. Biotic factors are the living organisms in the environment. So things like food supply, population density, predator-prey relationships, the type of vegetation, the type of herbivores, all affect each other in an ecosystem. So looking at the following factors below, are they going to be biotic or abiotic? Competition between members of the same population. This is going to be a biotic factor because they're both living. Bacteria that spreads through a population. Again, this is going to be biotic because the bacteria and the organisms that they affect are both living. A drought would be abiotic because it refers to the precipitation, and trees that shade the grass growing underneath it, again, abiotic because we're looking at the amount of sunlight. An organism's habitat is the particular area where the organism grows and thrives. Now, an organism's ideal habitat would be the combination of both the biotic living and the abiotic non-living factors where it best meets its needs. So now, the better an organism's habitat meets this ideal combination, the better its chance of survival or reproduction. Now, every organism has its own particular habitat with its own needs and the needs of that species. So when we look at the abiotic factors between a polar bear's habitat and a Gila monster, we can look at temperature. So a polar bear lives in a very cold climate, and a Gila monster lives in a very hot climate. So describing the habitat of the bison. So typically it would be grassland, so we would have moderate precipitation and moderate temperature. We want there to be an accessibility of water and places for the bison to hopefully theoretically stay in the shade during the heat of the day. If we look at a tropical frog, we're going to have high precipitation and high temperature, and obviously a lot of water sources. A desert habitat is going to have incredibly low precipitation, incredibly high temperature, and it's going to be hot in the day and cold in the night. The habitat for these clownfish is going to be saltwater, typically shallow and sunny, and reef-like structures. So human activity does affect an organism's habitat because it interferes with the biotic and abiotic factors in the ecosystem. Now, some of the ways humans have effects on these biotic factors include hunting of individual organisms, the use of insecticides and herbicides to get rid of plants or insects, deforestation, which not only removes the trees, which are biotic factors, but also affects the way water and sunlight move through an ecosystem, and the displacement and domestication of animals. So, if we're moving out bison to put in cattle, for example. Oh, we can also end up using fertilizers to improve soil nutrients. Now, this is going to affect the runoff into the water supply, and then that's going to change the water supply in an area. And when we pollute a water supply, whether it's with runoff from topsoil fertilizers, or we have heat pollution from coal-fired power plants, or maybe we have pollution from oil activity, this makes the water less suited for aquatic life. So sometimes pollution can make water too suited for aquatic life. So when we have the fertilizers in the water that ran off from, say, agricultural urban land, it can stimulate the growth of algae, which can cause an algae bloom. And the thriving algae population ends up depleting the supply of oxygen and nutrients in the water when it dies. So during the algae bloom, there's a lot of oxygen in the water, but then they die all of a sudden. And as they decompose, all that oxygen disappears, is replaced with carbon dioxide, and this can stress the other organisms out, and some of them might die. Um, and also, humans play a role in the reduction of the water supply as we remove water from systems for industry, agriculture, and urban use. Um, we're reducing the amount of water available for natural ecosystems. Now, water is considered to be a renewable resource, but some local water supplies are being used up by industry and agriculture and urban uses faster than they're replenished. So, if we think about the melting of the glaciers, we can't replenish the glaciers at the same rate that they're melting. Um, in prairie ecosystems, we're taking water out of the rivers for irrigation faster than it can be renewed. In California, they're taking water out of aquifers faster than it can be replenished, and the ground is actually sinking because of it. So, water is the most common chemical compound on Earth, and it makes up about 75% of the Earth's landscape. And in organisms, it makes up 70 to 95% of living cells. Our bodies use water for internal transport. It makes up a lot of our blood and our plasma. It's the main ingredient in tree sap. It's a solvent, so it dissolves the ionic compounds and some molecular compounds, and we need those to travel throughout our body or throughout the ecosystem. Water is necessary for photosynthesis, which is what a plant does to convert the sun's energy to chemical energy. And it is a nutrient needed by our body to stay hydrated, to maintain our cells' homeostasis. In an ecosystem, water also provides habitat for aquatic animals, shelter, so some animals will live in the snow or under the ice. It is important for our weather, so evaporation and condensation produce clouds, which can cause precipitation in the form of rain, snow, sleet, or hail. And it can change the climate, so it will determine if an area will have a temperate climate or a more extreme climate. And when we look at water, our main issues when it comes to water are water scarcity. How available is it? And will it be easily available for a long period of time? What we need the water for. So we need water for drinking, agriculture, industry, and recreation. And then the ocean. So this is where most of the water is currently. However, it's not usable because it's salty. And as more of our ice packs and rain and rivers flow into the ocean, the less water is going to be available for humans and animals to use. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. See you next time. Bye.